A century ago, a Seattle speech foreshadowed the death of a president. Today we anguish over presidents of advanced age, but a century ago the U.S. president was Warren G. Harding, then just 57. In 1923, his third presidential year, Harding mounted a grueling 2-month journey through the American West, with final stops planned in Washington, Oregon, and California. Before sailing north to Alaska, then a territory, he addressed 25,000 on July 5th in Tacoma. Back south in Seattle on July 27th, he spoke to 30,000, including many Boy Scouts at Woodland Park, and 30,000 at filled-to-capacity University of Washington, now Husky, Stadium. And 6 days later, he died. His Seattle speeches were the last for a president who, despite affability, enthusiasm, and a statesman's countenance, left professional and personal scandals in his wake. Today, historians rate him as possibly America's worst president. A rural Ohio newspaperman who had risen to U.S. Senator, Harding was a reluctant compromise candidate during the 1920 Republican Convention in Chicago, emerging from a proverbially smoke-filled room. 3 years later, his 5 hours in Seattle played an unintentional role in his demise. He had traveled 5,246 miles via rail, car, and steamship in just 22 days. After his Woodland Park appearance, plus a downtown parade and reception at Volunteer Park, his major speechifying ended at the UW. There, wrote biographer Francis Russell, Harding's cheeks looked green, and his jaws were set in pain. While speaking, the president hesitated, slurred his words, and called Alaska Nebraska. Midway, Harding began to falter, dropped the manuscript, and grabbed the desk, recounted Herbert Hoover, Secretary of Commerce and later President, who sat behind Harding, picked up the scattered sheafs, and quickly organized and fed Harding the remaining pages. Harding managed to get through the speech. "President ill," screamed a Seattle Times banner the next day, reportedly contracting ptomaine from poisonous crab meat en route from Alaska. Harding was ordered to bed rest on his train. His tour abruptly ended. "President is dead," shouted the Seattle Post-Intelligencer front page on August 3rd. His evening passing in a San Francisco hotel came from a heart attack. 5 hours later in Vermont, his vice president, Calvin Coolidge, was sworn in as his successor. "He had no business being president, but strange things happen," says Mike Purdy, presidential historian of West Seattle, who says Harding lacked the wisdom and vision for the role. Harding himself offered confirmation. "The presidency is hell. There is no other word to describe it," he once said. "I knew this job would be too much for me. I am not fit for this office and should have never been here." In our first then photo, as far as the eye can see, a crowd of 30,000, including many Boy Scouts, assembles at an Elks-sponsored picnic at Woodland Park on July 27, 1923, to hear an address by President Warren G. Harding. Today, giraffes patrol the stretch of Woodland Park where Harding spoke in 1923. Today it constitutes the African savanna of Woodland Park Zoo. At right is presidential historian Mike Purdy, who notes that Harding's speeches were both alliterative and elliptical. Purdy cites William Gibbs McIndoe, ex-Secretary of the Treasury and future U.S. Senator, who called Harding's rhetoric an army of pompous phrases moving across the landscape in search of an idea. To see Purdy's books and writings, visit presidentialhistory.com. In our second then photo, at University of Washington, now Husky Stadium, some 30,000 gather for a speech by Harding on the same afternoon of July 27, 1923. Today, graduates, family, and friends assembled June 10th at Husky Stadium for University of Washington commencement. Our third then photo is a portrait of President Warren G. Harding in 1923. And our fourth then photo shows Harding waving to the crowd as his car circles University of Washington Stadium prior to his speech. Today, graduates wear colorful attire June 10th at UW commencement.